Twitter account has gone silent. She's not shaking 1,000 hands a day. There are no more debates, TV ads, or endless sniping over who would make the best governor. Martha Coakley is now back at her office, finishing out her last days as Attorney General. And as Boston Globe columnist Joan Vanacchi wrote of Coakley, no one can say she gave up the fight. And Attorney General Martha Coakley is here. Welcome.
Thank you,
Great to have you.
Yeah, great to be here.
So today, Secretary of the Commonwealth, Bill Galvin, released some final figures, and he said that this was the closest gubernatorial race in 50 years. You lost by 40,165 votes. Does it make you feel better?
It's hard to know. You know, a win is a win. But of course, look, I'm really proud of the campaign we ran. And I think we brought up a lot of great issues that are going to stay front and center, like mental health care and early education. And look, I feel like we worked really hard. I think people appreciate there's only one winner. There's no silver medals, you know, in political races. And I feel that we did everything we could. And
you know what's interesting, what Joan Vanacchi said, Martha Coakley didn't get up the fight. And I think you had a lot of local journalists who covered you seriously and columnists who really understood the differences and the changes you made since the last time you ran. But there was a lot of snarking and sniping nationally. There was some really snarky stuff on Politico. Even Tom Brokaw said the other day, talking to Mike Barnicle, oh yeah, she's a terrible candidate. She ran a horrible campaign. How did you feel about that? You know, people from a distance kind of like assessing your performance and the way you ran a campaign, what they don't know.
Well, they don't know, and I think it's lazy journalism. I think it's what happens sometimes on the national level where you get a narrative and no one bothers to change it. I didn't pay much attention to it, honestly, and I don't care. I am always been interested now in Massachusetts, representing Massachusetts, and what I can do here. I just think that it's unfair, particularly for candidates. Look, Charlie Baker ran a race in 2010. He lost too, and people had criticisms of that campaign. So I don't think it was who won or who didn't win so much. Only one person could win. It's how well you play the game, and you want people to get in a race. You want them to fight hard and do well. I think we had two good candidates in that race, and he had a few more votes than I did.
There seemed to be some kind of a conventional wisdom, though, that this was Charlie Baker's to lose. It was kind of his turn. Did you ever feel that in your gut, that maybe that was going to be true?
No, I mean, look, you go through different moods. Look, we had a tough primary. We had a very active, we had 5 Democrats, good candidates, then we had 3. We had a very active and aggressive Democratic primary, and then you come out and, you know, that you change your phases a little bit. But, you know, I was in this to win it. I said, I'm going to knock harder, knock more doors than anybody else. I did. I worked incredibly hard. I also learned a lot, Emily, and it's a great privilege to be able to not only to run, but to be the Democratic nominee for governor. I feel like I learned a lot.
Concession speech, the last day or the day after, you know, you said you were talking about leaning in, because sort of the what's her name from the
Sheryl Sandberg.
Sheryl Sandberg, yeah, okay. Do you feel like that's what you're going to do now? I mean, you're going to have to take some time to reassess, I'm sure, but are you going to lean in, and do you think you'll jump back in politics at some point?
I'm going to jump back in something. You know, I've dreamed about driving a duck boat and love to be a Broadway singer. I'm obviously going to stay active and engaged. Look, this has never been for me about the electoral politics. It's been about service. It's about, you know, trying cases, helping kids stay safe, working on domestic violence. And look, I was never going to run for Attorney General, and people suggested I did. I said, I'll have to do utility rate regulation. Why would I want to do that? I've loved being Attorney General, and I've worked hard on the campaigning. And, you know, I just hope that we will continue to get good candidates and good governance. That's what this is about, public service.
We happen to be one of the few media outlets at that hearing at Partners last week or the week before. I'm just going to play a little bit of the sound, because we were there all 8 hours, I want you to know, but here's a little bit of what happened that day. Let's hear that.
And frankly, it's a little concerning for the court today to say, well, I want to know what the next Attorney General is going to say, because you either have enough information or you don't to make the decision.
Okay, I didn't mean to in any way impugn your integrity.
Well, I think you have.
Did you feel somehow, after going through what you had gone through, running that race, that you had a right to just stand up there and say, no, wait a second, this has got nothing to do with me running for governor or who's coming in as the next Attorney General, somebody who you supported yourself. This is a decision I made thoughtfully and carefully, and you are impugning my integrity.
Well, that's pretty much it, in the sense that, look, I came in after attorneys general I respected. I carried on their cases. We are stewards of an office. The office is not Martha Coakley, it's the Attorney General's office. And I really felt that it was important to find out from the judge whether she thought that was relevant or not. We are at the end of this process. If she needed more information, we were happy to give it to her. But she had been having a fairly open hearing, and even though I wasn't at counsel table, she was asking these questions of my assistant, and I thought this was an appropriate time for me to weigh in on what I thought was really important to put on the record.
So did it get postponed until Maura Healey takes over? Or
we don't know.
You don't know.
I mean, it's pending now, so it's under advisement. So it is in the judge's hands.
On the matter of what the president is going to do tonight, will your office be in charge of enforcing some of these new regulations? I mean, there has been, you know, there are some people, including Sheriff Hodgson, who don't go along with this. Will you be actively involved with seeing that some of these deportations don't happen?
Well, it's interesting to see what he's actually going to do, how that interplays, for instance, with the Secure Communities program. That is a federal and a
Searching for
state
that term,
action.
and all those bureaucratic terms that always leave my head. Yeah, secure communities. Right?
Yeah, I think a lot of the activity will probably be with sheriffs and with district attorneys and with federal authorities as opposed to our office, but we're certainly happy to get involved if there is some reason for clarification. But just as some departments and some sheriffs have been involved with secure communities, Boston used to be, I think we'll have to see what he says tonight. But I do think it's time, and we've decried the fact that Washington has not gotten a solution to 12 million people who are living here.
Yeah, we were just talking about. All right, so Martha, one of the people in our production staff came up to me a few minutes ago and said, Martha Coakley once said that if you ever leave your job, she'd like to have it. So it is open.
Well, I just found that out today.
You just found out?
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I've been running for office. You know, it's amazing what you don't hear or what you don't find. But no, you've always done a fabulous job here, Emily. And I was just recalling, I was on a lot. My first interview with you was after the Maddie Eapen death in the Louise Woodward case, and Jerry Leone came on. After 10 years, I was the guest that had been on most frequently for you.
We also once had to do a redo because you forgot. What was it?
It was a.
You had a gag order or something?
Yes, and I said something I was not supposed to say, and you were hesitant, but you were very accommodating.
We gave you
ultimately.
a mulligan.
Yes,
we did,
and I appreciated that.
Well, I mean, you could try out right now. Want to ask me something?
What are you going to do next?
That's a good question.
I said you could run for office.
No, I'm one of those ones who admits I have too many skeletons in my closet. And then the second question was always, really, like what? Yeah, no.
Well, whatever you do, we appreciate this. This has been a very civilized and terrific dialogue, and I think you've had great guests, and I hope someone will take your seat and continue that work.
I'm sure they will. And as we said, on our 10th anniversary, which was 8 years ago already, I think you scored the most number of appearances in the first 10 years of any guest that we had had.
And I was surprised. I knew I'd come frequently, but I didn't know I was that much of a frequent visitor.
Yeah. Well, I will still be on Beat the Press. You can see me there.
Excellent.
Right. Martha Coakley, it was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.